India was good with the U.S., but it looks like Trump didn't like the fact that they're selling oil to Russia and raised tariffs on India. Which the thing is, all they're gonna do is pass it down to the consumers. That's all that's really gonna happen. So, what I can say is, but we got a lot of people tuning in to the channel, and I really, really appreciate y'all, man. I like going over and reading the comments because I don't know if y'all notice or not, but I re-look at my lives. Yeah, I do. And I'm seeing a lot of good comments. Majority of the chat, I say 95%, probably a little higher than that. 95% of the chat is really good, friendly conversation, a lot of disagreements. But hey, ain't nothing wrong with disagreeing. Having the good conversations, communicating about what's going on in the world, and having great typing dialogue, as I call it. And I think, oh man, I left my jug again. But I like that. Instead of, having the right conversations about what's going on in the world, because what's going on in the world is very, very important. Very, 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 very important. Because what goes on around the world affects the economy, affects your pocketbook. Oh, there you go. And if you are an investor, it affects your portfolio on what's going on. So I appreciate everybody that's been coming to the chat. I like positive disagreements, from both sides. That's why I do polls to give me a good idea on who is inside of the chat. Hey, what's up, Jonathan Davis? What's up, the Don? I appreciate y'all too. Y'all are here every single day, and I appreciate y'all. Yesterday during the walk down, I was having technical difficulties. And of course, I rewatch my lives, and y'all too were in there taking care of business. I guess y'all realized that I couldn't communicate with the chat, and y'all took care of it. I appreciate y'all. So I hope y'all well. I am a little late, but hey, it's all good. Hey, what's up, Reg? How you doing, bro? So yeah, yesterday during the walk down, I couldn't see none of the comments. So what happened was I didn't know that. Well, I should have known that Jonathan Davis or one of y'all was going to be in here. And I appreciate y'all for taking care of, answering and talking to the people inside the chat. I didn't realize what was going on until I rewatched the live. That's why it's very important to always rewatch your lives. That's what I do every single day. Not only the main reason why I rewatch my lives, there's two reasons why I rewatch my lives. Number one is that I listen to how am I communicating, and it helps me get my communication skills a little bit better. Because when I first started going live, I would say a lot, and it would cut off my communication as far as how I sounded. So I made it my main priority to rewatch my lives and pay attention to what I'm saying, not what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it. And it has helped me out a whole lot when it comes to going live. So I hope y'all having a great morning. Hope y'all having a great morning. Everything's going pretty good over here for me. I'm still training and running every single day. Yesterday, I ran 8 miles yesterday. So in other words, I have increased my my running. So I'm gonna go out and try to see if I can run another 8 miles today. So I went up from 6 miles a day. Now I'm running 8 miles, and I feel pretty good. Lil Haiti, facts. I rewatched my live. I learned a little point or two. Good to do that. Yeah. I watch my lives every night to see how can I improve. And as I started doing that, number two, I also pay attention to the chat now because I got a lot of people coming in the chat, and I pay attention to what they're saying in the chat. And I've learned a few things from the people inside of this chat. You know, I know sometimes I don't read every comment, but when there's a lot of comments, it's kind of, I'm trying to listen to what's being said, pay attention to the chat, and it's a lot of comments. So that's another thing that I've added to my learning experience. Because guys, I'm 62. I only run to the bathroom. Hey, what's up, Gear Jammer? What I've realized is that when I rewatch the chat, I get a lot of people are saying a lot of smart things, chunking a lot of nuggets that I, put inside of my subconscious mind. That's why I love the chat. So I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I appreciate y'all for commenting. Everybody that's been subscribing to the channel, everybody that's been commenting and rocking with me, I really appreciate y'all, man, because y'all could be doing anything else, but y'all coming here and kicking with me, and I love it. So let's see what's going on today. Trump got upset because India decided to sell Russia oil they decided to sell Russia oil, and Trump got upset and he implemented an extra 25% tariff on India. Guys, we thought, they were buddies, India and Trump. So let's see how this turned out.
With some more of that breaking news reporting as I bring up some footage here of the late and disgraced financier here, Jeffrey Epstein. So the Republican-controlled committee also issued subpoenas there and depositions for 8 former top law enforcement officials, including their former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The committee's actions show how even with lawmakers away from Washington on a month-long break, interest in the Epstein files is still running high. President Trump has repeatedly tried to move past the Justice Department's decision not to release a full accounting of the investigation. But lawmakers from both major political parties, as well as many in the Republican president's political base, have refused to let it go. Since Epstein's 2019 death in the New York City jail cell as he awaited trial for sex trafficking charges, conservative conspiracists have stoked theories about what information investigators gathered on Epstein. Now, Republican lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee nodded to that line of questioning last month by initiating the subpoenas for the Clintons, both Democrats, as well as demanding all communications between President Biden's Democratic administration and the Justice Department regarding Epstein. The committee is also demanding interviews under oath from former attorneys general spanning the last 3 presidential administrations. It was Democrats, however, though, who sparked the move to subpoena the Justice Department for its files on Epstein. They were joined by some Republicans to successfully initiate the subpoena through a subcommittee of the House Oversight Committee. That committee had previously issued a subpoena for an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, that's Epstein's former girlfriend, who had been serving a prison sentence in Florida for luring teenage girls to be sexually abused by the wealthy financier, but it was recently.
Hey, what's up, Chuck? How you doing? Thank you for joining me, man. Appreciate you for coming.
Is willing to delay that.
Hope you're having a great day, Chuck.
After the Supreme Court decides whether to hear an appeal for her conviction. Maxwell argues she was wrongfully prosecuted. Speaking of Representative Comer, taking a look here, also a post on X. in which he details everyone that has been subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee there, listing them out as former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, former U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, former FBI Director James Comey, former U.S. Attorney General William Barr, former U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, former U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, former FBI Director Robert Mueller, and then two more former attorneys generals, Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder. So we are following this story very closely. And then at top of mind, of course, is the fact that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have both been subpoenaed by this committee in regards to this entire probe into the case of Jeffrey Epstein and those files that several lawmakers continue to push for their release. Any new information we get, of course, we'll bring it to you here at Live Nat from Fox.
Hey,
Moving
what's
on,
up,
though,
Destiny?
to
How
another
you
top story
doing?
that we are following, and this live image coming out of Chicago, Illinois. Take a look at this. Texas Democratic lawmakers there talking about the GOP's push for a redistricting proposal. Let's watch.
Senate. To my friends from Texas, while I'm glad to welcome you all to the great state of Illinois, I wish we were coming together under different circumstances. We're here today not because we want to be, but because we have to be. Right now, we are facing the voting rights fight of our lifetime. Donald Trump and Texas Republicans are staging a blatant attempt to strip away voting rights and rig the next election. Texas families are still recovering from devastating floods. Americans nationwide are suffering under rising prices and cuts to health care and food assistance. But Trump and Texas Republicans are choosing to ignore the needs of their constituents and focusing on further rigging the system for their own advantage. And there's no line they won't cross. Governor Abbott has even called for duly elected representatives to be hunted down and arrested. That is authoritarianism, and all of us should be outraged. It's not lost on me that it's Black and Latino communities who will disproportionately be silenced by this attack. Tomorrow marks the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, which was specifically designed to prohibit racial discrimination in voting. That progress was only possible because people were brave enough to fight for it. People like my dad, Henry, a Navy veteran, who marched from Selma to Montgomery 60 years ago because voting rights were under attack. But here we are in 2025. Trump and Republicans will stop at nothing to roll back that progress. This is personal to me because my 92-year-old dad, Henry, has passed the baton to me and to all of us. And now is our time to stand up and fight. We have a message for President Trump and Governor Abbott. We are watching you. In Illinois, we don't sit on the sidelines. In Illinois, we don't take kindly to threats. And in Illinois, we fight back. If Trump and Texas Republicans won't play by the rules, we will look at every option available to stop their extreme power grab, and nothing will be off the table. My friends, I assure you that while you're here in Illinois, we will do everything in our power to support you and protect you, because this isn't just about Texas. It's not just about Illinois. It's about every American having the right to be heard. Now is the time for fighters to be bold, unflinching, and fearless as we stand up for our democracy. And that's what we'll continue doing in Illinois. And we're proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with our friends in Texas in this fight. And with that, it is now my honor to pass it over to a true champion for democracy, who also happens to be the best governor in the nation, Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Well, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I really am so pleased to welcome DNC Chair Ken Martin along with Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher and Congressman Al Green, all, of course, from the state of Texas. And we're here, of course, because Texas House Democrats are demonstrating what it means to fight for the preservation of our constitutional republic. Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, Texas Republicans, well, they know that they're headed toward a loss of the Congress in 2026. They're afraid, and they should be. Because when you try to tear health care away from veterans and seniors, from children and people with disabilities, when you raise tariff taxes on groceries and beer and automobiles, when you let poor and working class families go hungry, when you allow smokestack industries to pollute the air and remove safety standards from food producers, well, all so that you can give a massive tax break to Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Ackman, well, frankly, you'd better watch out. You're going to lose your elections. So they've decided that the only way to save themselves is to cheat, to change the rules in the middle of the game. And what do MAGA Republicans in Texas do when Donald Trump ignores, well, his oath of office and theirs, and when they're taking it upon themselves to thwart the will of the American people? Well, they say, when Donald Trump calls, they say, yes, sir. Right away, sir. Happy to lick your boot, sir. When Donald Trump says jump, Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton say, how high? They don't care that they're violating the Voting Rights Act and racially gerrymandering their state. Well, they're hoping they can rob the bank and get away before anyone notices. Texas Republicans are trying to diminish the voting power of their own constituents, and in doing so, diminish the rights of Illinoisans and all Americans. Texas House Democrats are putting their lives on hold and their livelihoods at risk because they don't want to live in a country where the president rigs elections for his side. That's not democracy. That's not America. To be in public office right now is to constantly ask yourself, how do I make sure that we're standing on the right side of history? Well, there's a simple answer. The wrong side of history will always tell you to be afraid. And the right side of history will always expect you to be courageous. Texas House Democrats are leading the way in choosing courage and country over politics and party. That's what it means to fight for what's right. And I love this country too. And I love it so much that I'm going to fight for it too, right alongside my heroes, the Texas House Democrats. Yeah. So the state of Illinois is proud to stand side by side with these brave Texas Democrats, heroes in the battle to save our democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce the leader of the National Democratic Party, the great Ken Martin. Ken?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. I want to thank Governor Pritzker, of course, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, and Chairwoman Hernandez. Most importantly, I want to thank the patriots behind me. You know, patriotism means standing up for our Constitution in this time when it's under assault from people throughout this country, including our President of the United States. Let me tell you something, though. You heard it from the governor. Democrats are fighting back. We're not rolling over. And I've been saying to these Texas Republicans, if you want a showdown, well, you're going to get a showdown. And here it is right now here in Illinois. Unlike Texas Republicans who held just one hearing on flood response, but 8 hearings on rigging maps, Texas Democrats are doing their damn jobs. They're standing up for the Constitution. They're standing up for the democracy. They're standing up for the voices of their constituents. There is nothing more American than calling out corruption, blasting bullies who seek to harm others, and defending democracy and the will of the voters. We are here on the eve of the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act to once again stand up for fairness and justice. Because just as the icons of the civil rights movement marched, protested, and got into good trouble, just as Dr. King and Fannie Lou Hamer and John Lewis fought to ensure that Americans could access the ballot regardless of the color of their skin, so too are these courageous Texas House Democrats standing up and fighting back against a racial gerrymandering scheme to disenfranchise black and Latino voters, all to desperately hold on to Congress in the midterms. I am here because the DNC is standing shoulder to shoulder with them every single step of the way. And let me tell you something. We are supporting them not because it's a political fight, although it is, not because it's a necessary fight, although it is. We are supporting them because this is a moral fight, a fight worth fighting with every tool at our disposal. A fight for the fundamental value that voters should get to choose their leaders, not the other way around. Now, our message today is simple. It didn't have to be this way. It did not have to be this way, but Governor Greg Abbott, he could have simply picked up his pen to directly support individuals and families affected by the devastating floods in Kerr County. He didn't. He could have said no to Donald Trump and refused to redraw the electoral map in Texas. He didn't. It's clear that Republicans would rather play politics with our elections than support flood victims. They'd rather cheat than try to campaign on their failing record, a failing record which, by the way, includes voting for Trump's budget bill, which rips away health care for up to 1.7 million Texans. Republicans are running scared that voting for this monstrosity will make them lose their majority, and it certainly will. Which is why they're trying to disenfranchise Texas voters by packing and cracking them into districts to dilute their voting power, a clear and blatant violation of the Voting Rights Act. Now, I want to be very clear about this. The Trump-Abbott gerrymander is a test case for the rest of the country. What Republicans are trying to do in Texas is a model for other red states to lie, cheat, and steal their way to victory. They don't give a damn about the will of voters or their needs. In fact, they'd rather bend the knee to Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. than advocate for Texas. It's insulting, it's shameful, and it's wrong. And as I've said, Democrats are going to fight this tooth and nail, and until the will of the voters is respected. This is not the Democratic Party of your grandfather, which would bring a pencil to the knife fight. This is a new Democratic Party. We're bringing a knife to a knife fight, and we are going to fight fire with fire. We cannot, we will not let Republicans succeed in their efforts to gerrymander the map and tilt the election in their favor. I want to thank all of those who are here in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the Texas House Democratic Caucus who have broken quorum to prevent this illegal Republican gerrymander from going through. And with that, it is my great honor to introduce one of those brave patriots, true patriot, State Representative Ramon Romero from Fort Worth.
Thank you, Chair Martin. My name is Ramon Romero, Jr., State Representative, District 90 in Fort Worth, Texas, and also Chairman of the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus, the oldest and largest Latino caucus in the United States of America. So right now, there's folks saying that we walked out. And I think everyone behind me will say, we're standing up, and as Texans would say, we're standing tall. There's others that are saying and warning us that they're going to arrest us or make us pay fines. I'll pay that price for America. Yes. And I think everyone behind me would say they would do the same. Right. That would be a very small price to pay for what we would save for these Americans that have fought so hard.
That's cool. Yeah.
And against the maps that aim directly at black and brown voices. Tomorrow marks 60 years since the Voting Rights Act was signed into law, and that law that was born out of sacrifice of people bleeding, marching, and even dying for the right to vote. And now here we are one day before that anniversary, watching Trump try to destroy it. That power grab by Trump and Abbott doesn't just have the goal of getting 5 more seats in Congress. It has another goal, a goal more sinister than that. And that is to make people believe that their vote doesn't really matter. That's why it's all of our fight, just like it was 60 years ago. LBJ signed that law. He was a proud Texan willing to stand up and fight for the sake of a better America. In a very difficult time, many of us remember what it was like prior to integration and remember those fights. They were not anything we want to go back to. I had my femur broken when I was 4 years old. just for being in the wrong place, thrown off.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I appreciate y'all for joining me. We got 263 people in the building. Did the Democrats abandon Texas? Y'all please go vote. Please go vote. We had close to 800 people voted last night, and we're going to try to get the votes up to about 800 to 1,000 today. Please go vote. Did the Democrats abandon Texas? Appreciate y'all for joining me.
Leadership in Texas anymore. We have a follower. You know, we fought a fight this year as Governor Abbott had his voucher scam to remove public school dollars and send them to private schools. And he was losing. He made a call to Trump. Trump, I need your help. And those people on the Republican side, they folded. So what we have today is Governor Abbott receiving the call from Trump and repaying that favor. And that's a damn shame. So today, we Texans, we're doing something we don't normally ask for. We're asking for help. Maybe just as they did back in the days of the Alamo when they asked the rest of the country to come and join in on this fight. So we do ask you to join this fight because we're defending the rights of all Americans to value their vote and never be discouraged by way of a map drawn to say that your vote doesn't matter. We live in a blessed land, in a land that's for all, for freedom above all. So I want to thank you today, Governor Pritzker, for welcoming us in Illinois, and Lieutenant Governor Stratton, thank you for that beautiful message. And I don't know your daddy at 92 years old, but I love that man already. DNC Chair Martin, thank you for everyone in D.C. Thank you for everybody that's come out on this fight. Lisa Hernandez, thank you for welcoming us as well, and all the Texas congressional members that are standing behind us. And now I want to welcome somebody that's famous in many ways, a very gifted speaker, a very passionate human, my colleague Barbara Gervin Hawkins, leader of the Legislative Black Caucus.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ramiro. I want to talk to America. America, this is not a Texas fight. This is an American fight. And we need each and every one of you involved and engaged. I'm Barbara Gervin Hawkins, State Representative out of San Antonio, Texas. I'm also chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus, and I'm on the redistricting committee. So I've seen firsthand what my colleagues are attempting to do. I'm proud to be here in Illinois with my colleagues who've given up and have sacrificed a lot. Jobs, family, being caregivers.
Hello, Shaley Don. How you doing? Appreciate you for joining me.
It's been a challenge. And people say, what are you doing in Illinois? We're here understanding that we do have real allies who's also willing to sacrifice for us. I also want to talk to my colleagues, my Republican colleagues in Texas. You wrong for this. You wrong for this. You already have the governor's office. You're the majority in the Senate, the majority in the House. What more do you want? What more do you want? You have the power. It is time for y'all to love America again. I'm looking for my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, to be brave and stand up to what this demand has come. Think about it. We have a devastation that we have not addressed in our city. Over 130 people passed away, many young people. Some of those camp owners I know, but yet we're trying to ram a redistricting map. If they were serious about truly trying to go the will of the people that they think, we could do this next year or next time, or wait for 10 years to do this. But the reality is Trump called and they fell down and say, what do you want us to do?
Hello, Carol. How you doing? Thank you for joining me.
Which says they're weak. And we don't need that in Texas. No. Texas is a great state. And we need to show our courage. And I'm asking my colleagues to show your courage, to be willing to fight the fight and stand against as we all together save America. I'm also looking at our Republicans across the country. Call some of your colleagues and tell them to vote against this because it is shameful. Now, I come from an athletic family. If anybody heard the name Gervin, they know about the finger roll. My brother may not have won a championship, but guess what? He never cheated in a game. That's right. He never cheated. And guess what our Republican colleagues are trying to do? Cheat in the game.
If somebody doesn't know what a finger roll is, it's a layup in basketball. It's basically a layup, and you lay it up off your fingertips. It's called a finger roll.
And that's wrong. With that, I'd like to introduce a Congresswoman, Fletcher, who's in D.C., also fighting the fight. Because as we join together collectively as Americans, not black, white, brown, green, or blue, but as Americans who love this great country, let's stand together. Congresswoman.
Thank you so much, Representative Hawkins. And I am here to say thank you. I am Lizzie Fletcher, and I have the privilege of chairing Texas's Democratic congressional delegation in the 119th Congress. So on behalf of all of us, I'm here to say thank you to Governor Pritzker. Thank you to Lieutenant Governor Stratton. Thank you to Chairwoman Hernandez. Thank you to the Illinois congressional delegation members who are joining us here today and who have been welcoming our friends and colleagues and heroes from Texas here in Illinois. It is good to be back in Illinois. I was last here about a year ago, and I headed home to Texas after a pretty big convention, feeling hopeful for democracy and inspired by what I saw here in Chicago, here in Illinois. And I returned to Illinois last night feeling the same kind of hope and feeling a real inspiration, because what we see here happening in Illinois is the fight for our democracy, is the fight for America. And the people standing here today are on the front lines of that fight. These are the fighters for our democracy, and they are helping give a voice to all Texans and all Americans. And it's Democrats who are leading that fight. They are the ones fighting for democracy here in Illinois and across our beautiful country. So I also want to thank the head of the Democratic Party, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Ken Martin, who's here with us today, who we already heard from. I'm here to say thank you to him, too, because he knows what we know. You know, in Texas, we're used to saying everything's bigger in Texas, and it's a pretty big state, 254 counties, 30 million people. But we know that this is bigger than Texas, and Chair Martin, everyone in Illinois, and people across the country are standing up with us. So I'm here to say thank you to all of them. And I'm here to say thank you for standing up for our country, for America, for the land of the free and the home of the brave. And I am here today to thank the brave, and that is the members of the Texas House Democratic Caucus who are here in Illinois, who are fighting the fight on behalf of Texans and all Americans. Representative Hawkins, Representative Romero are such great examples of the incredible members of the Texas House Democratic Caucus who have been working tirelessly to protect the rights of our fellow Texans and of all Americans. And the Texas House Democrats have taken a courageous stand. Make no mistake, they are here despite aggressive threats from our governor, from our attorney general, and from others who are threatening them. They are coming here at great sacrifice and at great risk. But let's make one thing clear. They are here to do their jobs, and they are doing their jobs by being here. They are protecting our fellow Texans from the racist and illegal maps that the governor and the Texas legislature are trying to rush through at the behest of President Trump. They are here standing up for the millions of Texans whose voices will be taken away if these maps are enacted. And it's important to know that in Texas, that means taking away the voices of minority voters who are the majority in our state. And with all they are doing, it's important to understand this. We have, and I'll say just very briefly for those who need to know, we have 13 Democrats in Congress out of a delegation of 38. And all 13 of those Democrats who've been elected to the United States Congress are elected by a coalition of minority voters. And those are the only members of Congress who are consistently and reliably the candidates of choice of minority voters in Texas. And this map wants to take away five of those opportunities for minority voters to have their say and elect their candidate of choice. And, you know, in Texas, we have a long and shameful history of discrimination against minority voters. We all know about the white primaries that were struck down by the Supreme Court in 1944 and the other racist tactics to prevent people from exercising their right to vote at the ballot box. And tomorrow, we will celebrate the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act that said that people who live in states like Texas cannot do that anymore. But ever since the Voting Rights Act was enacted, Texas has been found in congressional map after congressional map and legislative map after legislative map to have violated the rights of Texans, of minority Texans who've historically been discriminated against in our state. So it is absolutely critical that we use our voices and our opportunity now to explain that this map, this proposal, violates the Voting Rights Act. It is an illegal racial gerrymander. And in Texas, those things are synonymous. When the GOP does a partisan gerrymander, it is a racial gerrymander. There is no difference in Texas, and it's important for everyone to know that this isn't just politics. This isn't just politics. So it's important that everyone across the country know and understand that we're fighting for the rights that are enshrined in the Voting Rights Act and are the rights of every single American to have a say and the ability to exercise their right to vote in our country. And so Texas Democrats are here to do that, and I am so proud to see my representatives, my friends and colleagues taking a stand for all Texans. And with the stand they're taking, they're inspiring the nation. And that's important because we need to know across the country what's happening and what's at stake. Over the last 6 months, we have seen an unprecedented and un-American power grab by the White House. And we've seen Republicans in Congress and now Republicans in Texas at every turn letting it happen and sometimes cheering it on. Well, Democrats aren't going to do that. Democrats are not going to let it happen. And while Republicans are surrendering, Democrats are fighting. Texas Democrats are fighting. And every American can and must fight back. And with that, I'm proud to turn it over to my colleague from Houston, Congressman Al Green.
I'm proud to be a Democrat. And I'm very proud to be here with some people who are making trouble. We got some Texans who've come all the way to Chicago to make trouble. John Lewis would call them good troublemakers. Good troublemakers. These are the kinds of people who want to make sure that we take care of people here on earth. Why do I say this? Because I just heard this morning that this administration wants to put a nuclear reactor on the moon.
Yes.
I'm concerned about accessible housing here on earth. Right. These are good troublemakers. So I cannot help but hearken back now to the Edmund Pettus Bridge. John Lewis was a personal friend of mine, and if I may say so, we shared time together and we spent time together. We went to jail together. And I'm proud to tell you, he told me the story of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. John Lewis explained to me that as they approached the crest of the bridge, they could see the men on horses. They could see men with clubs in their hands. Yet they marched on. Yeah. He knew what their intentionality was, but they marched on. They didn't turn back. These good troublemakers are not turning back. They're going to march on. They're going to stand strong. They marched on. And when they encountered the constabulary, they were met with clubs. They were simply trying to march peacefully from Selma to Montgomery. They were beaten all the way back to the church. John told me, he said, I thought I was going to die on that bridge. The Edmund Pettus Bridge. This, my friends, is an Edmund Pettus Bridge moment. This is one of those seminal moments in time that can impact the rest of time. And it's time for all of us, not just those of us who are here, but all of us in this country who believe in government of the people, by the people, for the people, not government of the bureaucracy, by the bureaucracy, for the bureaucracy, not government of the plutocrats, by the plutocrats, for the plutocrats, not government of the very, very wealthy, for the wealthy, but government for you, the people, the people. And if you believe in government for the people, you got to stand up for the people. And that doesn't just apply to the people who are here. There are some people who have strong voices, who have criticized Democrats, but they're not using their strong voices. You got to use your voice now. You got to come out. You got to come out. This is no time to take a break. Get involved. This is about us all. This is about our democracy. This is about our country. We all have to get involved. And as we get involved, let's remember this. At some point on the infinite continuum that we call time, we're all going to have to account for our time. And on that day, the question won't be, how many full bellies did you feed? Question won't be, how many billionaires did you try to get money in their pockets and lend money to them? No, the question is going to be, what did you do for the least, the last, and the lost? Right. What did you do for those who were hungry? Did you try to feed them, or did you try to take snap from them? Right. The question is going to be, what did you do for those who were unhoused, living under bridges? Veterans with signs up that said, say veteran, need help, will work for food. What did you do for them? Right. Did you try to build a nuclear reactor on the moon, or did you try to get affordable, accessible housing for them right here on Earth? Right. There's some difficult days ahead. But on this infinite continuum, here's one thing that I know. I don't know what the judgment will be, but I know what the record will show. Right. The record is going to show that troublemakers, good troublemakers, that Democrats were there for the least, the last, and the lost, that Democrats made a difference in the lives of people who were living in the streets of life, not just those living in the suites of life. Yeah. Democrats are making a difference. And yes, they're on the right side of history. But more important than all of this, they're on the right side of righteousness. Righteousness. And yes, what the governor is doing in Texas is wrong. What is wrong with you, governor? What is wrong with you? You've had babies to lose their lives. Families are suffering. And you are trying to redistrict Texas? You make this your #1 item on your scorecard? What is wrong with you, governor? You ought to be ashamed. Somebody's got to call you out. We're going to call you out now, and I believe we'll call you out in November of next year. That's right. Right. Yeah. I close with this, dear brothers and sisters, and I say brothers and sisters because I truly do believe, as Dr. King did, that there's just one race, and that's the human race. And all of us were created to live in harmony. But here's my closing. I'm a son of the segregated South. the laws that were recognized to protect me and the Constitution, my friends and neighbors denied me those laws. They denied me those privileges. I drank from colored water fountains. I sat in the back of the bus, the balcony of the movie, and I was locked up once, and it was the bottom of the jail. Yes, I was denied. I know invidious discrimination when I see it. I know what it looks like. I've celebrated my 25th birthday 3 times. I'm now 2 years into my 4th 25th. I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. I know what it smells like. What's happening in Texas is invidious discrimination. It is racial. My dear friends, it is racist. It is. And we have to say it. We have to say it. That's what it is. I know it when I see it. I know it when I smell it. I know it when I hear it. And we have a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to stand up to it. All of us. I'm telling you, it's not just Texas. If it were just Texas, Emmanuel Cleaver wouldn't have his seat on the chopping block in Missouri. It's more than Texas. It's this country. And we, the Democrats, are going to make the difference, because when democracy was on the line, let it be said that Democrats took the stand to preserve and save democracy in the United States of America. God bless you and thank you.
So we were just listening in there to
that was kind of long, wasn't it, guys? We got 292 votes. 60% says yes. 40%. 40% says no. So I need y'all to do me a favor and go vote. Let me know what you think. I want to know what the chat thinks. We got over 300 votes now. Appreciate y'all for voting.
Planned artillery and anti-submarine drills near Vladivostok in the Sea of Japan. It's the first time China has deployed a submarine to a port in Russia. Russia and China have nuclear-powered submarines capable of firing nuclear weapons, but sent diesel-powered subs to participate in the drills. On Sunday, President Trump was asked if the 2 American submarines had deployed.
They are in the region, yeah, where they have to be.
U.S. nuclear submarines are deployed in the Atlantic and the Pacific at all times. China's Navy is expanding its reach, potentially culminating in a submarine showdown near Taiwan. A recent war game conducted by the Center for Strategic and International Studies revealed a Chinese blockade could slash Taiwan's electricity to a mere 20%, shutting down critical industries like chip manufacturing, shaking the global economy. Seth Jones played China in the recent game.
Did not have as many nuclear-powered attack submarines, did not have a lot of ability to conduct anti-submarine warfare, so was fairly blind in understanding what the U.S. was doing subsurface.
A vulnerability the U.S. and Taiwan can exploit. The U.S. Navy has dozens of nuclear-powered submarines. 14 are capable of carrying nuclear weapons. Each Ohio-class sub can carry 20 Trident ballistic missiles with 8 nuclear warheads each, meaning one American Ohio-class nuclear submarine could strike 160 cities at once. At the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
Jennifer, thanks so much. So this was the post, the latest message from Trump there on Truth Social, saying this to India, that India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchased, selling it on the open market for big profits, saying they don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will be substantially raising the tariff paid by India to the USA. Thank you for your attention to this matter here. So let's talk about all of this with our friends and colleagues there at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery. He joins me. Mark, so good of you to be with us here. Hope you had a good weekend. I guess I got to ask this. We can get to the positioning of those nuclear-powered submarines in just a moment here. The India question, what was their response? Is India going to keep buying Russian oil or no? Are they going to absorb the tariff, 25%? And Mark, I think you might be muted there.
I think India has been inconsistent on this, which is to say the initial reporting about 3 days ago was that they were going to stop the purchases. Then yesterday, the Indian ministry said they were going to continue the purchases, and then this morning it came out that it's in between. I think Modi is Prime Minister Modi of India is trying to figure out where Trump really sits on this. You know, Trump in the past has made threats that he did not carry through on in regard to these kind of large-scale tariffs, and so I think he's probably keeping his cards close to his chest while he waits to see how this talk between Steve Witkoff and President Putin or his team go over the next 2 to 3 days.
So why does, I guess, India rely so heavily on Russian oil? Is it cheap? Is it discounted? Could they look for it elsewhere?
Absolutely, that's the reason. You're right on. It's money. Modi's number one goal is to drive the Indian economy, GDP, their GDP growth and low cost of energy per unit, right? That they get from buying discounted Russian shadow fleet oil makes their commodities less expensive on the international market. So India's benefits is, and President Trump had it just right. India profits on the back of Ukrainian sacrifice. And so President Trump may hold them accountable.
So, Mark, the Associated Press calls this a hiccup in U.S.-India relations. They say that Trump slapping 25% tariffs on India as well as an unspecified penalty. What might that penalty be? I want to go back to the previous question I asked you. I mean, it just seems like India is going to go along and absorb this. It's not going to have the intended effect, or will it?
No, I think it will. If the president actually applies extra penalty, extra tariff percentages, I think Modi will back off of this, because then as you mentioned earlier, there's this slight discount, right? That slight discount will be more than lost in the tariffing. So my gut reaction is that if President Trump demonstrates that he's serious about this, Prime Minister Modi will back off, and China will not be buying this shadow fleet Russian fossil fuels.
So, Mark, you alluded to this first. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will meet with Putin later this week. This after President Trump made that announcement this past weekend about the positioning of 2 of these nuclear submarines there. Now, where are those submarines going? Is that going to be leverage for Witkoff going into this meeting with Putin, do you think?
Well, it really depends what kind of submarines are. Jennifer Griffin, I think, postulated properly that they're ballistic missile submarines.
Okay.
If so, they can operate anywhere. Their ability to hold Russian cities at risk is pretty much as they exit port in either Georgia or Washington State. So I think that moving them was more President Trump doing a little bit of nuclear rhetoric or a little bit of flexing about U.S. capabilities and capacity, and reminding former President Medvedev, to stop hassling or stop mocking the president for his moves against Russia. So I think these submarines will be somewhere off the coast. I think they probably are SSBNs, and we do slight surges for training purposes every year. This can count as their training surge as they go out.
So, Mark, there was a term Trump used in that post on Truth Social, the Russian war machine. Have you ever heard Trump use that? What do you make of, and I will say this is somewhat of a 180-degree turn with regard to Putin and the threat he poses, not only, just to Ukraine, but overall here. Do you see kind of a sea change in Trump's view of Putin going on over the last several months, culminating in the use of the Russian war machine, that term? Haven't heard that before from him, have we?
No, it's a great catch. I think that really is, it's the art of the terminology there. He's making it clear who the adversary is. He's making it clear who he's holding accountable. So when he uses terminology like the art of the war machine, I think he's signaling to President to President Putin, I really am going to hold you accountable now. And you and I have spoken 5 or 6 times about this. And each time, I think the president's gotten closer and closer to taking the full suite of actions that would be necessary to put a maximum pressure campaign on Russia.
I mean, where does Putin stand right now? I was speaking with my our friend and colleague, you've been on with him, Hal Kempfer. I always ask Hal, what concessions is Putin being forced to make? He's slowly but surely gaining strategic advantages on the battlefield in Ukraine. He's flying high, you could say. I mean, he's not on his back foot here. What will put him there, Mark?
So you're right. So far, he hasn't had to make those concessions because the president really hasn't done a pressure campaign against him as he did against Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine back in February. What a maximum pressure campaign would look like is 3 lines of effort. The first is the one you and I have talked about here, sanctions or tariffs on the shadow fleet and the secondary and tertiary receivers of the shadow fleet, principally China and India. That's number one. That economic pressure. Number 2 is improving the flow of defensive weapons. I think that one's actually moving now. Now, the difference is President Trump's making clear the United States isn't going to pay for those weapons, but he's allowing European partners and Ukraine itself to buy those defensive weapons from the U.S. defense industrial base. He could give them better head of the line and immediate drawdown things. There's things he can do within that second line of effort to make more efficient. And the third line of effort is providing attack weapons. And here I'm thinking specifically about a weapon called ATACMS, which is a long-range strike weapon up to 300 kilometers that the U.S. has actually moved on from. We're buying follow-on ATACMS-2s and something called the Precision Strike Missile. And so we could give up our older ATACMS to the Ukrainians with very few restrictions on how they use them. Those 3 lines of effort, sanctions, defensive weapons, offensive weapons, is how you bring a maximum pressure campaign against Vladimir Putin.
Mark, while we have you, let's move from Russia and Ukraine to the Far East, talking China, talking Taiwan. You were recently there in Taiwan, and you can tell us about your trip, your visit here. I want to just kind of start the segment this way because we got this post over the weekend. U.S. Ambassador to China, David Perdue, with posting this photo, meeting with the Chinese leader Xi, saying, I was truly honored to meet President Xi Jinping and present my credentials. I'm proud to represent President Trump and the American people as U.S. ambassador, and I'm focused on implementing President Trump's foreign policy there in China. As the annual Ketagalan Forum Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue is going on in Taipei. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson just spoke at it live there. Mark, why were you in Taiwan?
Well, yeah, I did get back from Taiwan over the weekend. I was there for two things. One, the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, the think tank I'm with, we ran a tabletop exercise on how to combat a energy-focused, cyber-enabled economic warfare campaign by China. That's where they maximize the pressure on Taiwan through attacks on the energy infrastructure. And Taiwan's extremely vulnerable, importing 97% of its LNG and fuel and oil and coal, and therefore very vulnerable to Chinese quarantines or embargoes or even blockading. So we walked through all the different ways the United States, Taiwan, and other allies and partners like Japan and Australia can assist Taiwan in fending off this kind of pressure campaign. This is what we in the military call the most likely scenario, whereas that cross-strait invasion you hear a lot about and that Jennifer Griffin was talking about is the most dangerous scenario. You have to practice for both, but you better practice for that most likely one.
Is it common knowledge or conventional wisdom in Taiwan right now that there could be a Chinese invasion in this term, in President Trump's term, this first term?
So I think the one I just described, the cyber-enabled economic warfare campaign, they know is happening now, and they know it can be turned up and happen in the next 2 to 3 years, and it could buckle Taiwan. As far as the cross-strait invasion, I think they believe it's starting to slip to the right. Maybe it's not 2027, could be 2028, 2029. That's when China will have the capability to do it. You never know when they would pull the trigger and do it, but you assume they wouldn't do it before they knew they could be successful, and that's still a few years off.
Okay, live picture there, Mark, at the White House. I didn't get you on to talk about this story. I didn't know you were in Taiwan, but it's relevant. This was 6 days ago. The Taiwanese government calling off a plan for its president to transit through the United States on his way to Latin America. So this is, they report, amid speculation that the Trump administration had opposed a proposed stopover by the Taiwanese president, Lai Ching-te, in New York. Taipei said Lai had no overseas travel plans due to domestic issues, including natural disasters and tariff negotiations with the United States. The other proposed stop on his itinerary was in Dallas there. What's going on here, Mark, do you think?
Oh, I think what's happening right now is the United States is focusing on China, right? We just had this unusual exchange where China began to threaten our critical minerals, and the United States kind of buckled and allowed the sale of the NVIDIA's H20 chips to China. So we're right in the middle of a high stakes pressure campaign or economic campaign with the Chinese, and President Trump really wants a meeting with Chairman Xi to discuss this. And the only way to do that is to kind of get all the other issues off the table. So I think we told Taiwan, let's hold off on this. So do I think President Lai is going to visit? You bet. I think he's going to visit before any kind of
launching one of the world's largest joint military drills. And this comes at a time when tensions between the US and Russia, they have increased to heights unseen since the Cold War. Beijing and Washington are locked into a fierce trade war. More in this next report. Take a look.
Missiles launch, destroyers slice through the sea, and fighter jets scream across the sky. This isn't war, not yet. But it's what war would look like if China and Russia fought side by side. And now they're practicing exactly that. Over thousands of troops, dozens of warships, submarines and aircraft from both countries gathered for massive joint military drills in the Sea of Japan, a region bristling with geopolitical tension. The drills include live fire exercises, anti-submarine operations, air defense and simulated amphibious landings. Warships prowled the waves, while jets executed low-altitude formation strikes. Beijing and Moscow say the drills are part of the annual cooperation plan between the two militaries.
Both sides will conduct their 6th joint naval patrol in relevant waters of the Pacific. This is part of the annual cooperation plan between the Chinese and Russian militaries. It is not directed against third parties and is unrelated to the current international or regional situation.
But the optics are obvious. The timing not accidental. These war games come as the US deepens alliances in the Pacific, bolstering Japan, South Korea, the Philippines and Australia in what Beijing sees as a tightening net. Moscow, on the other hand, is locked in a grinding confrontation with NATO over Ukraine. China and Russia, sensing the strategic encirclement, are making their move loudly. The No Limits partnership between China and Russia, announced just before the Ukraine war, only keeps expanding. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
live now from Fox.
All right, hey, what's up, guys? I appreciate y'all for joining me. Let's take a look at the votes. 372 votes now, right about the same. 59% say yes, 41% say no. Well, I appreciate y'all for joining me. If you have not voted yet, go and take a vote. You know, did Democrats abandon Texas? Because they left Texas and went to Chicago, went to Illinois, went to New York, instead of staying and doing their job and voting. They left. So they left the whole state. So I appreciate y'all for joining me. We got 372 votes, which is a good count. Hope y'all having a great day. It's right around lunchtime. I think I'm ending right here though, guys. I appreciate y'all for joining me. Everybody that's been commenting in the comment section, I really, really, really appreciate you. The nice comments going back and forth. You know, that's what it's about. You can't disagree, but hey, that's a good conversation about what's going on. And I really appreciate y'all for joining me. But I think I'm ending right here, guys. I thank y'all for joining me. And with that being said, I'm out.